Mazel Tov, Spartans. Happy Friday, February 2nd, 2024. Again, you know I'm out of the building today, and I am well aware that you have plenty to get to work on. So I'm going to move this along here pretty quickly. I'm briefly going to run through consumer loans with you guys. You should have read and answered questions 1 through 6 from chapter 7. So I'm going to talk about what you read about yesterday and make sure that you understand that. To reiterate, by the end of the day, you should have a couple of things done. One, watch this video, complete any notes. Two, you need to make sure that from your investment activities yesterday, you have spent whatever capital you have remaining in your portfolio. There were some groups that still haven't spent all their money. You needed to sell off your worst performing stock and purchase something that was better. When you're done, right? When you're done with the stocks, when you're done with the video, you have your week 8 checks deposit ledger to complete. This week, it looks like I am grading the budget sheet. So make sure you update the numbers on your budget sheet. And then for Monday, questions 7 through 17 on the chapter 7 reading guide, 7 through 17. So a bunch to do here. Notes, finish off your investments, week 8 checks, questions 7 through 17 for Monday on chapter 7. Here we go. So you guys read about consumer loans yesterday. It's pretty straightforward here. Consumer loan is when you go to a bank, you go to some sort of financial institution and you borrow money. It's different than when you're charging things on your credit card. When you're charging things on your credit card, that is revolving credit. You can spend as much as you want up to a limit. Consumer loans is specific. It is organized. It has a beginning and an end. There is no end to credit. You could spend $100 one month, $500 the next month, $1,000 a month after that. Nothing is specified. Nothing is organized. The payments aren't even specified. The only requirement for the payment on credit card is you pay the minimum balance or minimum percentage balance, which is like 2.5%. Consumer loans work differently. Consumer loans are in the business of borrowing money and getting it back, borrowing money and getting it back. They don't give you indefinite time periods in which to pay back the loan. All right. Consumer loans come with something called amortized payments. I got a little spreadsheet here. Let's say you borrow $200,000 to buy a house, 4% interest, you're paying it back in 15 years. It tells you the minimum, tells you the monthly payment that you are going to make. And they will also give you more or less a schedule of how much you are paying, when you are paying, how much goes to interest, how much goes to the principal, and most importantly, it tells you when you're done with your payments. Consumer loans work different in comparison to revolving credit or credit cards because there is an end date to it. And the payments are set up to be completed in a way that you pay the amount of money, you pay an amount of money to pay it off in a certain time frame. Not how credit cards work. Credit cards work, the organization of credit cards is about getting you to pay interest. Consumer loans aren't about that. There's nothing wrong with taking out a loan. And again, if we're talking about our credit score, your credit score improves when you have different types of debt. Probably the most logical way to borrow money is to take out a loan. You know what you're paying, and when you're done paying. It's not supposed to go on indefinitely. The difference between credit cards, though, and consumer loans is the amount of payment. Your payment is going to be higher on a consumer loan. If you have a car payment, mortgage, student loans, your payments are going to be higher because the whole purpose is to pay it off within a time frame. Could be 1 year, could be 5 years, could be 10 years, could be 15 years, whatever it is. But it is a time frame that guides how much money you are paying, which is why some people don't necessarily like taking out consumer loans because they have to pay more money each month. Loan payments, they come in different forms and we need to be aware of this, all right? You can take out loans and they can be single payments. I would strongly urge against this. I've done these a couple of times and obviously I'm financially literate enough where it wasn't an issue. You often see these advertised on TV where you could redo your kitchen or your bathroom or get new carpeting or get a wood fence or whatever it is. No payments, no interest for 1 year. Sounds great. You don't have the money to do your carpets. You don't have the money to get new appliances. You don't have the money to get a new roof. No payments, no interest for 1 year. Yes. But to make sure that you are not charged the interest, you have to pay it off in full in 1 year. Meaning that if you get a new roof that costs you $40,000 on January 1st, 2024, you have to pay it off by July 1st. Sorry, check that, January 1st, 2025. And if you have not paid it off in full, there's going to be problems for you. Because while they may say if there's no interest or payments for 1 year, what it will say in the agreement is if you don't pay it off completely in 1 year, you are being assessed interest. And that interest is going to go all the way back to the beginning of when you first borrowed the money. So you're going to be assessed interest in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, December, and January because you didn't pay it off. So you're going to be back assessed. You're going to be retro assessed 13 months of interest on the full cost of whatever amount of money that you borrowed. Single payment loans can work if you are responsible enough and organized enough to keep track of how much money you need to have at the end of the year. If you're a person that sees money and spends money, this probably isn't the type of loan that you want. Something very similar to a single payment loan in which you make one payment is a balloon loan. Oftentimes, balloon loans are used for people when they need a large amount of money in a short amount of time. So I'll give you an example. You currently have a house, you're living in a house, but you want to build a new house somewhere else. So you might take out a balloon loan in which you are going to make smaller monthly payments on a very large amount of money, knowing that within a certain amount of time period, you're going to have to pay everything back. So you have a house, you're building a new house. Your plan is to live in the house that you have, move into the new house that's being built when it's done, and then you're going to turn around and sell the house that you already had to pay back the balloon payment loan. A little example here. Let's say we're buying a $200,000 house, 4.5% interest, 30-year, well, let's say 15-year. Let's assume we're making a lot of money. $200,000 house, 4%, 4.5% interest, you're paying it back in 15 years. All right. So you can see on the amortization that you are making 15 years of payments. Your payments is $1,529 per month for 15 years. You could do a balloon payment. Same thing, $200,000 house. It is for 1 year. It is for 4.5% interest. You can see that on the balloon payment, you will make 11 payments at just over $1,000. So you're saving about $500 a month in interest. But on the 12th month, you are responsible for paying the remainder of the balance due. In this particular case, it's $197,786. That's a lot of grease to be held accountable for in 11 months. Right? It's very similar. It is very similar to a single payment. If you can't pay it all off in full at the end of the term, whether it's 1 year or 2 years, it doesn't matter. If you can't cover the rest of it, when the loan comes due, you're going to be in a world of hurt because you're going to get backdated, back assessed, all sorts of interest. And again, you're going to be paying interest on the interest that you didn't pay. Dangerous. Again, balloon payments are very common when it comes to real estate, right? In real estate, we might call it a bridge loan too. You have a house, you're moving into a new house, but you're going to live in the old house for a time period, wait for the new one to be done. You move into it, you sell the old one, you cover your remaining balance. If you can't sell it, if you can't sell your house and pay off your loan, you're hurting. You're hurting bad. All right. I would stay away from those things. I would stay away from single payments or balloon payment unless you have access to a lot of cash in a short amount of time, or you're highly organized and you can make sure that you are stowing away money each week, each month to make sure you can cover the balance when it comes due. I would always recommend that students do installment loans. And again, it's basically something that's amortized. Most loans are installments. You borrow a specific amount of money. It has a specific interest charge that you pay for. You have a specific amount of time to pay it back. Your payments are calculated for you for whatever that time period is, and you are paying the same amount of money each time. It's just easier to do. You don't lose track of it. It's just better off for most people. Just like credit cards, interest rates can be variable or fixed, right? They're still going to have APR. So if it says you got a 7% loan, you're not paying 7% each month. You're paying 7% divided by 12. Again, variable or fixed. I always say fixed. Always do fixed. You can't lose if you go fixed. If interest rates dropped and you're locked in at a higher interest rate, you can always refinance. Again, it's like dating in a bar. MasterCard or Wells Fargo isn't going to care that you're paying TCF Bank or Huntington Bank 7% and they're at 5%, because the 5% interest charge that Wells Fargo wants to collect, they weren't getting from you before. You can always refinance. You can always get a lower rate. The problem is you're in a world of hurt if the interest rates increase and your rate is variable. Unlike credit cards, where the credit card company gives you 45 days notice of your rates are going up. On a consumer loan, if it's fixed, it's fixed. If you lock in at 2, if you lock in at 4, if you lock in at 5, if you lock in whatever the number is, that's the number if it's fixed. There's no changing. There's no triple stamping, a double stamp. There's no double erases, none of that. It's important to know your amortization schedule. I've already showed that to you, right? You need to know when your payments are due. You need to know the length of time, all right? The reason why I always point out the amortization schedule is because it'll tell you how much you are paying, right? You're paying $15, $29, $99 a month. It'll tell you how much interest you are paying, and it'll tell you how much you're paying towards the principal. Why I point this out to you is that you will see that the amount of interest you pay each month decreases while the amount of principal that you pay each month increases. Banks will always get their money. You will always pay the interest first. If you want to pay less interest over the life of the loan, then you need to pay more in principal, right? Instead of paying $15.29 a month, you can pay, let's say you got an extra $100. Maybe you're paying $16.29 a month, and you will see a significant decrease in the amount of interest that you are charged over the life of the loan. All right. Always try to pay more than the minimum balance. When looking at taking out a consumer loan or any loans, right? Let's not make it fancy. Consumer loan is a loan. Any type of loan, whether it be a mortgage, a car payment, student loans, whatever. We want to know what the penalties are for default and deficiency. All right. This means that you haven't been making your payments or you don't have enough to make your payments. Something to keep aware of. I always tell people to double check and make sure there's no early payment penalty. Anytime I borrow money, it's the first question I ask. Is there a penalty for paying it off sooner? Some loans will come with a penalty. If you take out a 5-year loan and you pay it off in 3, you may be assessed a penalty because, again, banks want their money. But there are plenty of loans available that do not have early payment penalties because they know, a lot of these institutions know, the sooner they get the money back from you, the sooner they can get it to somebody else that probably isn't going to be as organized as you are. So they're going to make their money on someone who's less responsible. But double check it. You don't want to find yourself having to, not to be able to pay it off sooner. And as always, refinancing. Some companies will have refinancing penalties if you refinance it with them. But again, like dating in a bar, you could always refinance it with another company. But again, that brings back in the early payment penalty, because if you have a loan from Chase Morgan and you refinance it from Wells Fargo, what Wells Fargo is going to do is pay your debt at Chase Manhattan, and then you're going to start making your payments to Wells Fargo. So this is where that early penalty problem comes into. Make sure when you're taking out a loan, there's no early payment penalty. I'm done. That's it. We may have to go through this again on Monday when I'm back if you have questions, and that's perfectly fine. Investment groups, spend the rest of your money, sell off your worst one, buy something better. Week 8 checks. Pay your bills, deposit your check, update your ledger, update your budget sheet. I'm looking at budget sheet this week. Then you have whatever time remaining, 7 through 17. Talking student loans on Monday. Have a great weekend. Enjoy the beautiful weather. I'll see you guys next week. Go Spartans.